story today is a twisted game of cat and mouse that makes even the wildest soap operas look like polite disagreements over brunch. Imagine this. A cop knocks on the door of Ermalinda Palomo, a 50-year-old woman who might as well be a character plucked straight out of a telenovela. The cop's got that stern, you know what this is about look on his face, and he's about to drop the bomb that he's there to investigate a murder. Little does she know, he's not talking about one body, but four. What unraveled inside that house was the kind of tangled web where years of jealousy, deception, and some seriously unhinged online personas conspired to end in the merciless killing of an entire family. Yeah, we're diving into a plot involving fake cartel accounts, a secret lover, and a puppet master who just couldn't stand to lose control of her personal soap opera. And did I mention that it all starts unraveling because of a guy named Turtle? To really understand this bloodbath, you've got to go back a few years when Ermalinda started playing a dangerous game with her fiancé, Nathaniel Huey Jr. Think catfishing, but with an extra dash of paranoia and a side of fake Mexican cartel threats. It was all fun and games until a secret affair came to light, one that would spiral from a love triangle into a full-blown massacre. So buckle up as we follow the breadcrumbs left by Turtle, an assassin who gives new meaning to working remotely. Welcome to 10-Minute Murder. I know you know what's going on and why we're here. An officer spoke to the person who just opened the door he'd knocked on. We're investigating a murder. The woman he was talking to was 50-year-old Ermalinda Palomo. But what the officer didn't tell her in that initial conversation was that they weren't there to investigate just one murder, but four. The foundations for those incredibly shocking and devastating murders were laid years before, and almost unbelievably, when one of the victims had been only 5 years old. But to understand how years of planning and calculations ended in the cruel slaying of innocent children, we have to understand the role of their parents and how that played into their demise. It started around 2022 when Ermalinda Palomo realized that her fiancé, 31-year-old Nathaniel Huey Jr., was having yet another affair. This was by far not the first, but if Ermalinda would have her way, it would most certainly be his last. About a year before she'd discovered his latest fling, Ermalinda set up a series of online accounts under different pseudonyms. Through these, she'd convinced Nathaniel that he'd been recruited and was now directly working for the Mexican cartel. Ermalinda used social media accounts and phone numbers and often used them to coerce Nathaniel into treating her, quote, better. She would then force his hand into acting the way that she wanted him to, by feeding him details and information about his life and routine, giving Nathaniel the impression that these dangerous cartel bosses had people constantly watching him. For the most part, Nathaniel did as he was told, but the delicate balance and tentative hold that Ermalinda had on her fiancé became endangered when she found out about 38-year-old Zoraida Bartholome. Zoraida was in a long-term relationship with 32-year-old Alberto Rolón, and together they had two sons, 9-year-old Adriel and 7-year-old Diego. For about a year, Zoraida had been in a secret relationship with Nathaniel, a relationship that would tear her entire life apart. That's because, unbeknownst to Zoraida, or even to Nathaniel himself, the man behind the curtains of the Mexican cartel was none other than Ermalinda, and she wasn't about to take Nathaniel's latest affair lying down. The accounts that Nathaniel was communicating with then began ramping up the pressure. Now it wasn't enough for them that Nathaniel was treating Ermalinda better, but someone close to Nathaniel was a mole and had directly targeted him for information. These accounts then went silent for days, leaving Nathaniel to stew and grow increasingly paranoid. He knew that the cartel was not to be messed with, and he knew that if he had knowingly or unknowingly fed information to a mole, the cartel would be coming for him next. By the time these accounts came back online, Nathaniel was in a complete panic and was tearing his hair out, desperately trying to figure out who it was in his life that was the mole. But finally, The accounts had an answer for him, and with it, they would provide a solution to his problem. It turned out that the mole was Zoraida, and her entire relationship with Nathaniel had all been a ruse. She'd only had an affair with him so that she could draw information about the cartel out of him, and now his bosses needed Nathaniel to get rid of her. To help him do that, they put him in contact with a cartel assassin who went by the name Turtle. Turtle would help Nathaniel put together a plan to rid themselves of this potentially dangerous mole before she could do any damage to the cartel, or maybe even just attack Nathaniel now that her cover had been blown. A police report detailed the steps that Nathaniel and this mysterious Turtle, aka Ermalinda, using yet another online fake account, would take next. They, the report reads, researched Zoraida's house to determine the layout within. They researched the neighborhood to locate cameras, planned how to get in and out of the house, and learned that the house behind Zoraida was vacant. In messages, Turtle advised Nathaniel on what order he should take care of his victims, and that he should mess up the scene to make it appear to be a burglary committed by kids. Just 3 days after he'd been informed that Zoraida was, in fact, a mole, Nathaniel and Ermalinda drove to Zoraida's home in the dead of the night. Ermalinda stayed in the car with a walkie-talkie that she and Nathaniel used to communicate with each other while he went in and did what he believed he'd been sent there to do. Nathaniel used a knife to cut through 2 screens and then walked through the kitchen to unlock the door. But further inside the house, Alberto had heard Nathaniel coming, and he went to investigate. Alberto only made it a short way towards Nathaniel before Nathaniel spotted him and opened fire. Alberto managed to turn around and start heading back towards his bedroom, where Zoraida and the children were sleeping. But all the while, he was being struck with bullets. Alberto died before he could protect his family. Nathaniel then moved on to the bedroom, where Zoraida and her boys had been sleeping. They'd all woken up from the sounds of the gunfire and had closed the door, but by then it was already too late. Nathaniel shot through the door, hitting Zoraida several times, killing her. Now, with all of the adults out of the picture, Nathaniel was able to force his way into the bedroom and shot both Adriel and Diego. Together, Zoraida and her family were shot a total of 20 times. Nathaniel then moved throughout the house and set the scene. He shot and killed all 3 of the family dogs, tossed furniture about, and spray-painted things on the walls, all in an attempt to throw the investigators off of his trail. It was after Alberto failed to show up for work, and Zoraida's family members grew concerned that they couldn't reach her or the boys, that the police were called to perform a welfare check. They found the family butchered in their home on September 17th, 2023. The discovery shocked the community and fueled the investigators' drive to track down the person capable of massacring an entire family, including 2 small children. Using doorbell cams, cell towers, and camera systems, the detectives were able to spot a car traveling between Streamwood and Romeoville on the night of the murders. And driving that vehicle was none other than Nathaniel himself. And it was through a series of online investigations and just old-fashioned police work that the detectives were able to uncover a dark, complicated web of lies and deceit that had culminated in a quadruple murder. While Ermalinda had been convincing Nathaniel that he was now working for the Mexican cartel, she had also reached out to Zoraida and her family. 3 months before the killings, and in a direct message to Alberto, Ermalinda had actually warned him that Zoraida was having an extramarital affair with Nathaniel. When Alberto didn't break up with Zoraida, Ermalinda then ramped up her warnings even further. In messages and handwritten letters, Ermalinda told both Zoraida and Alberto that Nathaniel was a dangerous member of the Mexican cartel, and that they should stay clear of him for their own safety. "I don't believe she believes my warnings," Ermalinda wrote in a message to Alberto about Zoraida, "and for the safety of your family, she really needs to be honest with you. Nathaniel has rifles and guns he carries with him. The mother of your children is putting them in danger, and she knows this." Just 2 weeks before she would drive with Nathaniel to Alberto's home, she sent one last message. "This will be the last I say of this, Alberto. This stupid girl will be the reason you have no children." The police then tracked Nathaniel down at his place of work and confronted him. In the report, they state Nathaniel admitted to his relationship with Zoraida, but denied any involvement in the murders. He refused to allow police to search his GMC Yukon at this time. Later this day, he was seen transferring a bag containing firearms from his GMC to another person. From there, the officers then went to Nathaniel's house, where Ermalinda opened the door only to be told that the officers were there to investigate a murder. Ermalinda feigned ignorance, and that night, she and Nathaniel slipped away. They first stopped at a nearby Target, where Nathaniel met up with his mother and confessed. He told his mother that he had killed Zoraida and her family because people were after him. When asked why he killed the children, Nathaniel's response was because he believed the kids were better off dead than alive without parents. Shortly after all that, Ermalinda's family reported her as missing and expressed concerns to the local police that she'd been taken away by Nathaniel against her will. Using cameras, the investigators were able to track them to a Walmart in Oklahoma. The pair of them were confronted by local police in the parking lot, but they managed to get away and began recklessly involved in a police chase. A short distance later, the police report read, the GMC drifted to the center divider and crashed before coming to a stop. Nathaniel shot Ermalinda in the head, killing her. He shot himself under his chin, but that gunshot didn't kill him, so he shot himself again in the head. Both died. It was later determined that Ermalinda had been the mastermind behind the entire plot, and that she had willingly left with Nathaniel that day. That is 10-Minute Murder for today. Brief and bingeable true crime. I'm Joe, I'm the host, and thank you for taking the time to listen. If you're a new listener, subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. If you're not connected to 10-Minute Murder on social media, do that. And more importantly than anything else, if you listen to one thing that I say to you right now, share this podcast with your friends and family. That helps me more than I can even begin to describe. Yes, the ratings and the reviews help. But more than anything, the show grows by you telling other people about the show. Otherwise, nobody knows that I even exist. And I used to tell people, make sure you vet them before you just go talking about true crime podcasts. Hey, let me tell you about this murder podcast that I've been listening to. I used to say, maybe don't do that. Figure out if they're the kind of person that would actually like to listen to that. But now I'm a little bit different because you never know anymore. So my advice now is grab somebody sexy, tell them, hey, check out 10-Minute Murder. And I know what you're thinking. Joe, in this economy, can I afford to be losing friends like that? And that's just a sacrifice that we may need to make. Of course, I'm kidding about that part. But anyway, if you think that they could be into true crime, if you even get the inkling, then let them know about the podcast. 10minutemurder.com is my website. My email address, joe@10minutemurder.com. And that's it. That is your podcast episode for today. Thank you so much for listening.